Nikki was just 19 when she first crossed paths with David on a humid afternoon in the bustling market of their small coastal town. The air was thick with the scent of ripe mangoes and salted fish, vendors shouting their wares over the hum of motorcycles and chatter. She wasn't the type of girl who chased after material things. Flashy jewelry or designer clothes held no allure for her. She didn't measure love by the size of a man's wallet or the gleam of his car. No, Nicky was different, shaped by a childhood of quiet losses and resilient dreams. Her father had passed away when she was 12, leaving behind a modest home, a grieving mother, and those precious gold earrings that symbolized his enduring love. From then on, Nicky learned to find beauty in the intangible, a kind word, a shared laugh, the spark of potential in someone's soul. What drew her to David wasn't what he possessed, because, in truth, he had so little. His shoes were scuffed and splitting at the seams, his shirts threadbare from endless washes, his pockets echoing with emptiness. But oh, the fire in his eyes when he spoke of his dreams. It was like watching a storm brew over the ocean, full of raw power and promise. He was 21, a student scraping by on odd jobs, orphaned young, and raised by distant relatives who offered little more than a roof. David dreamed of building a business that would lift him, and those he loved, out of the cycle of poverty. One day, he'd say, his voice steady despite the weariness in his frame, I'll create something that changes lives. Not just mine, but ours. And Nikki, with her tender heart that had already known too much sorrow, believed every syllable. She saw in him the man he could become, not the one society dismissed. Her friends, however, saw only the surface. They were a tight-knit group, girls from similar modest backgrounds, but with sharper edges, always quick to judge. Nikki, you're wasting your bloom on that boy. They'd tease over cups of milky tea at the corner cafe. He can't even buy you a soda without counting coins. How will he ever give you a life? Their laughter stung like salt in a fresh wound, but Nikki would lift her chin, her dark eyes steady. You don't see what I see, she'd reply softly, her voice laced with quiet conviction. His heart is rich with ambition. One day he'll be great, and you'll wish you'd believed in him too. Deep down, their words planted seeds of doubt, but Nikki watered them away with her faith in David. She wasn't naive, she was hopeful, a rare flower blooming in arid soil. And so, she stayed, weaving her life into his with threads of unwavering support. In the beginning, their love was a quiet symphony, played out in stolen moments amid hardship. They couldn't afford candlelit dinners or weekend getaways, but they had the vast sky and each other. Every evening, they'd meet under the ancient mango tree. Near her mother's house, its gnarled branches heavy with fruit that dripped sweetness in the rainy season. The ground was soft with fallen leaves, and the air hummed with crickets as they sat close, hands intertwined. David's fingers, calloused from labor, would trace patterns on her palm as he painted pictures of their future. Imagine it, Nikki, he'd whisper, his breath warm against her ear. A home by the sea, with windows that let in the morning light. Children laughing in the yard, travels to places we've only seen in books. Paris, maybe, or the pyramids in Egypt. And you, my love, you'll never lift a finger in worry again. His words wrapped around her like a blanket on a chilly night, and Nikki's heart would swell, tears pricking her eyes not from sadness, but from the depth of her belief. She saw their struggles as temporary shadows before the dawn. But love entangled with poverty is a fragile thing, tested by invisible weights that press down relentlessly. There were nights when David returned from his part-time job at the mechanic's shop, his face gaunt from skipping meals to save for textbooks. Nikki, working as a seamstress's assistant, would notice the hollow in his cheeks and slip away to her kitchen, packing rice and beans in a worn cloth. Eat, my love, she'd urge, watching him devour it under the moonlight, her own stomach twisting with shared hunger. Shame would flicker in his eyes, a man unable to provide. But she'd cup his face, her touch gentle. We're in this together. Your strength is mine. The challenges mounted like waves in a storm. One semester, David's tuition fees loomed like an insurmountable cliff. His relatives shrugged, claiming they had nothing to spare. Despair etched lines on his young face as he confessed, I might have to drop out, Nicky. Dreams are for those who can afford them. But she refused to let the light in his eyes dim. Juggling extra shifts at a local shop, her hands blistered from sorting goods until midnight, she scraped together the money. This is for us, she'd say, pressing the envelope into his hands, her voice firm despite the exhaustion pulling at her. Her friends, witnessing her weary returns home, shook their heads. You're mad, Nicky, pouring your youth into a bottomless pit. What if he walks away when the sun shines? Their warnings echoed in her quieter moments, but she'd smile through the ache. He won't. David loves me with a depth you can't measure. Alt. Then came the abyss, the moment that tested the very foundation of her soul. David fell gravely ill, a fever that ravaged his body, turning his skin sallow and his breaths labored. The doctors at the overcrowded clinic shook their heads gravely. He needs specialized treatment in the city hospital, or he won't make it through the month. The cost was staggering, a sum that dwarfed their combined savings. His family, already burdened, gathered in hushed whispers, resigning to fate. It's God's will, his aunt murmured, tears in her eyes, but defeat in her posture. Nicky's world tilted. She couldn't fathom a life without him, the man whose laughter had become her anchor, whose dreams had intertwined with her own. That night, alone in her room, lit by a flickering kerosene lamp, she opened the small wooden box hidden under her bed. Inside lay her father's gold earrings, intricately carved with delicate patterns, the last tangible piece of him. She remembered the day he gave them to her, his voice weak from illness. These are for you, my pearl. Wear them when you find joy. Clutching them, memories flooded her, his stories by the fire, his proud smile at her school achievements. Selling them felt like severing a limb, but as tears streamed down her face, she whispered to the empty room, Forgive me, Baba. But love demands sacrifice. The next day, she pawned them at the market, the goldsmith's pitying gaze burning into her. With the money, she paid for David's treatment, medicines, hospital stays, the long bus rides to visit him. When he awoke from the haze of fever, stronger but fragile, and learned of her deed, he broke. Tears carved paths down his cheeks as he held her hands in the sterile hospital room, the beeps of machines underscoring his vulnerability. Why, Nicky? Those were your heart's treasure. She leaned in, kissing his forehead, tasting the salt of his sweat and her sorrow. Because you are my treasure now. I can't bear a world dimmed without your light. We're bound, you and I. That pivotal night, as rain pattered against the window, David vowed with a voice raw from emotion, If I survive this, if I ever rise from these ashes, you'll be my queen. I'll repay every tear, every sacrifice. I swear it on my life. Nicky held him close, her heart a whirlwind of hope and fear, believing that love like theirs could conquer any storm. And conquer it did, at first. David recovered, his body mending as his spirit reignited. He returned to school with renewed vigor, graduating with honors that made Nicky's chest burst with pride. A modest job followed then. With her gentle nudges, he launched a small trading business, importing goods from nearby cities. Nicky it was his silent partner, balancing ledgers late into the night, offering ideas when doubts clouded his mind, whispering prayers as he paced with worry. Her life became a tapestry woven around his ambitions. She found joy in his progress, convinced that his triumph was their shared victory. We're building an empire, my love, she'd say, her eyes shining as they pored over plans under the mango tree. The breakthrough arrived like a monsoon after drought. A key client deal snowballed, orders flooding in. Money, once a trickle, became a stream. David transformed. New suits replaced rags. A shiny car hummed in place of weary walks. A spacious apartment overlooked the town he once begged from. Nicky watched with awe, her sacrifices blooming into reality. See? I knew you could do it, she'd beam, hugging him tightly. In her mind, the struggles were footnotes to their epic tale. Now they could plan the wedding, the home, the life he'd promised. But shadows crept in, subtle as twilight. Success, that double-edged blade, began to erode the man she knew. David missed calls, citing endless meetings. Visits grew sparse. "Work is consuming me," he'd text curtly. The gratitude that once lit his eyes faded. Her homemade meals, once savored with kisses, now met with distracted nods. Nicky felt the shift in her bones, a chill where warmth once resided. Internal storms raged. Is it the pressure? Am I asking too much? She'd lie awake, replaying their history, convincing herself patience was key. "He's building our future," she'd murmur to the darkness, ignoring the growing void. Desperate to bridge the gap, she planned a surprise one golden evening. In her mother's kitchen, scents of spices filled the air as she prepared jollof rice, vibrant red, infused with tomatoes and peppers, and grilled chicken, crispy and aromatic, just as he loved in their lean days. She donned the blue dress he'd adored, its fabric soft against her skin, evoking memories of their first dance at a village festival. Heart pounding with anticipation, she imagined his arms around her, whispers of reaffirmation, a return to their roots. Arriving at his apartment, the building's modern gleam a stark contrast to their past haunts, she knocked with trembling hands. The door swung open, revealing not David, but a stranger, a woman of striking beauty, her skin glowing under flawless makeup, clad in silk that screamed luxury, nails manicured to perfection. Her gaze was ice. "Yes? Can I help you?" Nicky's voice faltered, the basket heavy in her arms. I'm David's girlfriend. I've come to see him." A smirk twisted the woman's lips, sharp as a blade. "Girlfriend? Oh, honey, that's ancient history. I'm his fiancée." She flashed a ring that caught the light, a diamond mocking Nicky's simplicity. The world spun. Breath eluded her as David appeared, his face paling. "Nicky, what are you doing here?" His voice cracked, laced with guilt. Tears welled, hot and unbidden. "David, please. Tell me this is a lie. Tell me she's mistaken." Her plea hung in the air, fragile. The woman clung to him possessively. "He doesn't owe you explanations. We're building a life together. Move on." The basket slipped, crashing to the floor in a symphony of heartbreak, rice scattering like shattered dreams, chicken tumbling amid the mess. Nicky stood frozen, sobs racking her frame. "After everything, the hunger I shared, the shoes I bought, the earrings I sold to save you, all those nights praying for your life, this? You discard me like yesterday's news?" David's eyes dropped, shame etching his features. He couldn't face her. "Nicky, I'm sorry. Things have changed. I've evolved." Changed. The word echoed like a death knell, splintering her soul into irreparable fragments. She turned, each step a Herculean effort, the hallway blurring through tears. Memories assaulted her, his fevered promises, her father's earrings glinting in the pawnshop light, laughter under the mango tree. She hadn't merely lost a lover, she'd forfeited her youth, her essence, to forge a king who now crowned another. He didn't chase her, no pleas, no remorse, just silence, deafening and final. In the aftermath, Nicky's existence unraveled like frayed thread. Days blurred into nights of endless weeping, her pillow soaked with grief. Food turned to ash in her mouth. Smiles felt foreign. The town whispered, "Friends, I told you so," like barbs. Strangers' pitying glances, salt in wounds. But the deepest cut wasn't the abandonment. It was the ingratitude, the erasure of her role in his ascent. Did I mean nothing? Was my love just a stepping stone? One stormy night, as thunder mirrored her turmoil, her mother held her close, stroking her hair. "My child, the heart gives without ledger, but sometimes the recipients are blind to its worth. Don't regret your love, it shows your strength." One day, a soul will see you, not for what you give, but for who you are, and love you fiercely. Nicky clung to those words, but the scar ran deep, a chasm years would struggle to bridge. She had poured her everything into a vessel that overflowed for another, left with echoes of what could have been. And in that void, she learned the cruel poetry of love. It can elevate or eviscerate, leaving behind lessons etched in pain, and the quiet hope that healing, though slow, is possible. What did you feel listening to Nicky's journey? Did her sacrifices stir your heart, or did David's betrayal ignite your anger? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear how this story touched you. If it moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that dive deep into the human soul. Your support means the world.